Is Antoinette Tubman Barnes. I'm the daughter of William V.S. Tubman Jr. and Woki Ara Tolbert Tubman. I'm the granddaughter of Antoinette Padmore Tubman, who was the daughter of James Padmore, and granddaughter of George Stanley Padmore, who came from Barbados on the Cora. The Lord has blessed me with two mothers. My mother, Woki Rosalind Tolbert Tubman, and my grandmother, Antoinette Padmore Tubman. I lived with her and my grandfather, William V.S. Tubman Sr., from a very early age. I used to call her mommy. And to differentiate her from my mother, I called her Mommy Nettie, and this was later on in life. But growing up, I called her Mommy because she was really my mother. And she gave me care, she gave me love. I really felt her love, I felt her protection. She was very given to me, and she always wanted to see me succeed. Definitely going to school was important to her. Having good grades, important to her. And on occasions when I accompanied her and my grandfather on trips to Europe or throughout Africa, if it was during the school year, believe you me, I will be toting books with me wherever we went. And she would make sure that I was getting my reading done and I was getting my homework done, because that was very important to me. Excuse me, it's very important to her. I think that also allowed me to see parts of the world at a very early age, and also see Mommy Nettie's love for culture. She loved to go to museums. She loved to learn about the people, about the land, about the foods, and she loved flowers. Oh, did she love flowers. And back home, you will see that even in her gardens, she had beautiful, immaculate gardens. And she spent a lot of time in them, giving instructions or actually doing work herself. So there was always, when you looked outside the window, there was beauty there. There were flowers in the house. And she was very particular about details. Obviously, they did a lot of hosting, she and my grandfather, but even after his passing, when she moved on with her life, it was important that things in the house ran a certain way. She was very important to details. Even I remember once she told me to make up the bed. And I was making up the bed like I normally would make up the bed. And she came and she's like, this is not the way you do the end of the bed. You have to do it so it'll be a nice fold. You know, that little box corner at the end of the bed that you see if you go to hotels, how they look. And she actually showed me how to do it. So now I know how to do it. So I learned that from Mommy Nettie. Very particular. She was very loving to me, and I really just bless the Lord for her. I really, really do. She was a very positive influence in my life, and very instrumental in terms of my going not only to school, but also to college and to graduate school. She was very, very supportive. And for that, I will always be grateful. I was truly blessed. A very elegant woman. Mommy Nettie, I found out later, did fashion design. When she was growing up, she was able to go, I believe, to France and study fashion design. And she came back to Monrovia and she taught at Liberia College, fashion design for a period. I remember Miss Cynthia Garber, one of her very close friends, and she had quite a few very close friends. But I remember Miss Cynthia Garber telling me that Mommy Nette made her wedding dress. So she was that good. She was an excellent seamstress, I guess how people would call it back then. And her wanting to teach and give back was important to her. As First Lady, she was instrumental in um, a lot of different initiatives, humanitarian initiatives. For example, the Antoinette Tubman Child Welfare Foundation. I hope I'm saying that correctly. But that, through that welfare foundation, she was able to help a lot of disadvantaged families, particularly the children. Her heart was for the children of Liberia. So through that, it was like an orphanage, and she would help, do the fundraising and help students or children through that orphanage. She also was instrumental in the Catherine Mills, excuse me, which was a center for people who were mentally challenged. So for those with um, mental illness or mentally challenged, they had a place for help. And I think that made her happy, her being able to give back, her being able to make a difference in the country that she, was born in, that she grew to love, and also to help and partner along with her husband with all of his endeavors. Mommy Nette was also an astute businesswoman. My grandparents had a coffee farm in Totota, and she was instrumental in the running of that coffee farm. She was also instrumental in running a motel and a restaurant in Totota, which was called Coos Nest. So you could go there, drive up there, you could spend the night and have some delicious food. They also had a home up in Totota. And after my grandfather passed, she made it into like a museum of his artifacts, and even holding artifacts of previous presidents. So her needing, or not needing, but making a mark and leaving a part of her legacy for Liberia was to conserve those things that, and memories of those people who had put an imprint on Liberia, their imprint in their way, the way that they knew how. Definitely everyone will not agree with everything a president does, but she did what she could to memorialize her husband, and also definitely keeping his memory alive, but also leaving history for Liberia and Liberians. And I think, as I said earlier, her love for museums played an important part in her wanting to do that, to leave a history and to leave a legacy for her husband and also for herself. My fondest memory of Mom's was, she would check on me. She was always checking on me for, how are you doing? How was school? When I got back and from school. And I remember this when we used to eat, and I would go to see her if she came from out, and I would go to say, "Hi, Moms, how are you?" Or, "Hi, Mommy, how are you?" And she would say, "Did you eat?" I say, yes. Your stomach full? Yes. Your heart glad? Yes. Those are what she would always ask me if my stomach was full, if my heart was glad. I also really enjoyed time with her when we traveled because in addition to making sure that I was doing my schoolwork and I wasn't missing anything, and she was also very careful to include me when she went on certain outings to museums. So that also opened up my understanding and my love for culture. And I got to see and experience things at an early age. And I really count that as a blessing. I really value my time. I would say Mommy Nettie's greatest strength was her attention to detail and seeing things through. When she wanted something done, she would definitely reach out to those who she could rely on. But if need be, she would do it, get in there herself. And I go back to that thing about making the bed. I was making the bed and she wanted to make sure it was done right. So she came to make sure I was doing it correctly. And for that, I think that would be what I would say was her greatest strength. Attention to details and seeing things through. And the other thing that has been important to me was something that my grandfather always said to me. He would say, Tony, you are not better than anyone, and no one is better than you. I remember this after definitely while growing up with my grandparents in the mansion. That was different. It was a different experience, and I was younger as well. But definitely after my grandfather died, while living with moms, I would be part of our chores to do the dishes, to clean the kitchen, to fix whether it was the shortbread or the cornbread or whatever you were going to be making for dinner or for whatever, the meal would be. She was very particular that we knew how to do things. And when I say we, I was not the only one there. There were others that were there at the house, and she, other young ladies, some cousins, from her side of the family, from the Tubman side of the family. And, we did develop a bond, those of us who lived there with her. But she would have all of us in the kitchen and, doing what needed to be done. Well, I know Auntie Cuckoo shared a saying that she used to reminded me of a saying that used to say after she ate, would say, thank you for this morsel. May the next one be a meal. Something like that she would say. Yeah, the one I remember most was your stomach full, your heart glad. She would say that all the time. Mommy Nettie's favorite Liberian food was collard greens. I remember her as being a caring person, a loving person, a giving person. That's me. That was my experience with her. That she was compassionate. She was certainly forgiving. And for Liberia, I think she would want to be remembered as someone who cared for those who were disadvantaged, those who needed help. And she made a difference in those lives. Through the organizations that she was affiliated with, organizations she was a part of, organizations that she did fundraising for, that she was making a difference in the lives of children, and therefore in the lives of their families, and therefore in Liberia. We can show our appreciation to our ancestors by teaching our children the core values of what we were taught. Teaching them the importance of respect, teaching them the importance of education, teaching them the importance of making a difference. To the African young ladies, I want to say dream big. I want to say do your best. I want to say go to school, get your education. Education is extremely important in opening doors for you. Take it seriously. Be influenced by the elders more than by social media. Be influenced by those who have wisdom more than your peers. I believe each of you have a plan and a purpose ordained by the Almighty God. And I pray that you get to walk in it, that you get to see it, that you get to live it, that you get to share it with your families.